The Velorian delegation brought her forward in chains. Sergeant Major Cole Brennan watched from behind the bulletproof glass as the alien, small, pale-skinned with luminescent markings tracing her arms, was pushed to her knees before General Harwick. Cole had seen plenty of war prizes exchanged between species during his 14 years of service. This one couldn't have been more than the equivalent of 19 human years. A gift, the Velorian ambassador declared, his 4 eyes gleaming with what Cole had learned to recognize as amusement. For the human who held Outpost Kira alone for 17 days, we believe in rewarding valor. Cole's jaw tightened. He hadn't held that outpost for glory. He'd held it because retreat meant letting the Velorians massacre the civilian evacuation convoy. 312 people had lived because he'd been too stubborn to die. "I don't want a slave," Cole said flatly. The ambassador's mouth stretched into something approximating a smile. "She is not a slave. She is Kytha, a companion species to the Velorians. Bonded servants, you might say. Her name is Saeli. She will serve you well." Cole looked at the girl. Saeli. She hadn't looked up once. Her silver hair hung over her face like a curtain, but he could see her hands trembling against her thighs. "And if I refuse, then she will be recycled." Unbonded Kytha rarely survive more than a few weeks. Their biology requires a bond anchor. The ambassador gestured dismissively. "But that is not your concern. We offer her as honor gift. Refusing would be diplomatically unfortunate." General Harwick gave Cole a look that said everything. "HFY need this alliance. Don't screw it up." Cole walked around the glass barrier. The Velorian guards shifted nervously. They remembered what he'd done at Kira, but he ignored them. He stopped in front of the kneeling girl. "Saeli, Q." She flinched at her name. "Look at me." Slowly, she raised her head. Her eyes were silver, like liquid mercury, and filled with the kind of exhausted resignation Cole recognized from too many mirrors. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said quietly. "But I need you to understand something. I don't own people. I don't want a servant. If you come with me, you come as a person, not property. Do you understand?" Something flickered in those silver eyes. Confusion, maybe. Or the first spark of something else. "I understand the words," she said. Her voice was soft, accented. "I do not understand their meaning." Cole sighed and extended his hand. "Then I guess we'll figure it out together." She stared at his hand like it was a weapon. After a long moment, she took it. Her fingers were cold, almost brittle. The quarters they assigned him were officer grade, which meant a living room, a small kitchen, and 2 bedrooms. Cole hadn't had this much space in years. It felt wrong. Saeli stood just inside the door, her back pressed against the wall, watching him with wary eyes. "You can sit down," Cole said, dropping his duffel bag on the couch. "You don't need permission." She didn't move. Cole rubbed his face with both hands. He was too old and too tired for this. The burns on his left side still ached from Kira, nerve damage the doctors said might never fully heal. He should be in a medical ward, not playing diplomat to an alien who looked at him like he was about to beat her. "When did you last eat?" he asked. Saeli blinked. "I do not remember. The journey was long." Cole walked to the kitchen unit and punched in a basic meal request. Protein, carbohydrates, vegetables, standard recovery food. "Sit at the table," he said over his shoulder. "That's not a command. It's a suggestion. You look like you're about to fall over." He heard her move, hesitant footsteps on the metal floor, and when he turned around, she was perched on the edge of a chair like a bird ready to take flight. The food dispenser chimed. Cole brought the tray over and set it in front of her. Saeli stared at it. Then, at him. "Eat," he said, sitting across from her. "I already ate on the transport." She picked up the fork with careful precision and took a small bite. Then another. Then she was eating like she hadn't seen food in days, which, Cole realized, she probably hadn't. He watched in silence, cataloging details. The faded bruises on her wrists. The way she hunched her shoulders protectively. The subtle tremor in her hands. "How long were you with the Velorians?" he asked. Saeli swallowed. 4 cycles. After my family died in the Kreth bombardment, the Velorians found me in the ruins. And they made you a companion. They took what they wanted." Her voice was flat, empty, as all conquerors do. Cole felt something twist in his chest, something he thought had died at Kira, along with most of his squad. "I'm not them," he said. "I know you have no reason to believe that, but I'm not." Saeli set down her fork. For a long moment she just looked at him, really looked, with those unsettling silver eyes. "You have kind eyes," she said finally. The last human who had kind eyes let them take me without a word. She went back to eating. Cole sat in silence, feeling the weight of 14 years of war settle a little heavier on his shoulders. That night, he heard her crying through the wall. He didn't go to her. He didn't know how. So he lay in the darkness, listening, and hated himself for every second of it. The first mission came 3 weeks later. Reconnaissance on Thalos 7, Captain Vasquez briefed them. Suspected Kreth staging area. 4-person team. In and out, minimal contact. Cole studied the holographic map. Jungle terrain. Heavy electromagnetic interference. The kind of environment where everything that could go wrong usually did. I can't take her into a combat zone, he said. Vasquez's expression didn't change. The Kytha bond requires proximity. Medical says no more than 100 meters for extended periods without risk of physiological collapse. She goes, or you're off the roster. Cole looked across the briefing room at Saeli. She sat apart from the other soldiers wearing the adaptive uniform they'd issued her, looking profoundly out of place. In the 3 weeks since her arrival, she'd barely spoken. She did whatever he asked without complaint, anticipated his needs before he voiced them, and flinched every time someone raised their voice near her. At night, she still cried, though she'd learned to muffle the sound. He hated that she'd learned to muffle the sound. Fine, Cole said. But she stays behind the line. Non-combatant status. Agreed. The jungle of Thalos 7 smelled like rotting vegetation and ozone. The electromagnetic interference made their equipment glitch every few minutes, turning a simple recon into a nerve-shredding exercise in controlled paranoia. Saeli moved through the undergrowth with surprising grace. Her species, Cole had learned, evolved in dense forest environments. She heard things before the team's sensors did. Smelled changes in the air they couldn't detect. Contact ahead, she whispered, her hand touching his arm. Kreth patrol. 6, perhaps 7. Moving east. Private Chen checked his scanner. I'm getting nothing, Sarge. She's not wrong, Cole said. Circle north. We go around. Chen and Corporal Tanaka exchanged glances but complied. They were halfway around the patrol when Saeli suddenly froze. Down, she hissed. Everyone dropped. A Kreth drone passed overhead, its sensors sweeping the canopy. Had they been standing, they would have been spotted. How did you... Chen started. I heard it, Saeli said simply. The pitch is distinctive. Cole looked at her with new eyes. She met his gaze briefly, then looked away. Thanks, he said quietly. The words seemed to startle her more than the drone had. They made it to the observation point without further incident. What they found was worse than expected. Not a staging area, but a full forward operating base. Hundreds of Kreth soldiers, heavy artillery, transport ships capable of carrying invasion forces. This isn't reconnaissance, Tanaka muttered. This is a goddamn prelude to war. Cole was already recording everything. We need to get this back, now. That was when the first explosion hit. The Kreth had found them. The next few minutes were chaos. Running, shooting, trying to break contact with an enemy that seemed to be everywhere at once. Chen went down first, a plasma bolt through his shoulder. Tanaka grabbed him, kept moving. Cole covered the retreat, putting rounds down range with mechanical precision. Brennan! Tanaka's voice crackled through the comm. The tree line's blocked. We're pinned. Cole assessed. 3 directions closed. 1 option left. Through a fuel depot the Kreth had established in a natural clearing. This way, he ordered. They ran. The depot was lightly guarded, but Kreth reinforcements were closing fast. Cole threw a grenade into the nearest fuel tank, buying them seconds of chaos and confusion. They were almost clear when the secondary explosion hit. Cole saw the wall of fire rushing towards Saeli. She'd stopped, frozen in place, staring at the flames with an expression he recognized. The same expression he'd seen on soldiers who'd lived through too much and couldn't make themselves move when it mattered. He didn't think, didn't calculate. He just moved. His body hit hers a fraction of a second before the fire reached them. He wrapped himself around her, shielding her with his back, and felt the world turn to pain. He woke up in the medical bay. Saeli was beside his bed, her silver eyes red-rimmed. You're awake, she said. Her voice cracked. Cole tried to move, felt the bandages pull across his back. The others? Safe. Chen will recover. Tanaka has minor burns. She paused. You were badly hurt. The fire? I know. He could feel it. The tight, pulling agony of burned flesh. He'd been burned before at Kira. This felt worse. Saeli's hand found his. Her fingers were still cold, but they gripped him with surprising strength. Why did you do it? She asked. I am nothing. A companion. A gift. Why would you risk your life for me? Cole looked at her. Really looked, for the first time since they'd met. Because you're not nothing, he said. You're Saeli. And I don't let my people burn if I can help it. Something broke in her expression. Something that had been holding together by sheer force of will for years. She cried. Not the muffled sobs he heard through the wall, but real, gasping tears that shook her whole body. Cole, despite the pain, shifted in the bed and let her cry against his chest. He didn't say anything. Some things didn't need words. The scar healed in the shape of a hand. Cole discovered this when the bandages came off, 6 weeks later. The burn pattern across Saeli's back, she'd caught some of the fire despite his shielding, formed the unmistakable silhouette of 5 fingers spread wide. His hand pressed against her to push her down and away from the worst of the flames. The medical team offered to remove it, Saeli said, watching him in the mirror as he examined the mark. I refused. Why? She turned to face him. In the weeks since Thela 7, something had shifted between them. She stood closer now. Met his eyes when she spoke. The trembling had stopped. Because it is proof, she said. Proof that someone thought I was worth saving. My people, we mark the moments that define us. This mark defines the moment I stopped being property and became someone worth protecting. Cole didn't know what to say. He carried guilt about those burns for weeks. Guilt that he hadn't been faster. That she'd been hurt at all. I should have been quicker, he said. Saeli touched his arm. The gesture was becoming familiar. You were quick enough. Any slower, and we would both be dead. Any faster is impossible. She paused. You saved me at cost to yourself. No one has ever done that. Do you understand what that means to a Kytha? I'm not sure I do. We bond, she said slowly. As if explaining something complex in a language not her own. That is our nature. We seek an anchor. Someone to belong to. But the bond is not meant to be what the Velorians made of it. It is not servitude. It is partnership. Trust. A promise to face the darkness together. She took a breath. When you shielded me from the fire, you created a bond. Not a Kytha bond. Something else. Something human. You chose me without obligation. Protected me without ownership. That is... God no role. Rare. That is precious. Cole felt something loosen in his chest. Something that had been clenched tight since Kira. Since before Kira. I didn't do it to create a bond, he said honestly. I did it because you mattered. Because losing you wasn't an option I was willing to accept. Saeli smiled. It was the first real smile he'd seen from her. That, she said, is exactly what a bond should be. Word spread through the battalion. The scarred sergeant and his alien companion who'd helped save the team on Thela 7. Opinions varied. Some saw Saeli as a mascot, others as an oddity, a few as a genuine asset. Private Chen, recovered and back on duty, fell into the last category. She saved my life, he told anyone who questioned her presence. Heard that drone when none of our tech could. If she hadn't been there, we'd all be dead. I don't care what planet she's from. The intelligence they brought back from Thela 7 had triggered a full military response. The Kreth invasion had been stopped before it started. Hundreds of thousands of lives saved because one recon team had made it out. Cole found himself promoted. Major Brennan, with command of his own unit. You need a staff, General Harwick told him. Official positions. Advisors. Intelligence analysts. I have one request, Cole said. Your companion? Harwick's tone was careful. The politics around the Kytha were delicate. Saeli HFY. She has instincts our tech can't match. Enhanced senses. She's proven herself in combat. Cole met the general's eyes. I want her designated as a tactical advisor. Full rank. Full pay. Full status, as personnel. The Velorians won't like it. The Velorians can go to hell. Harwick considered for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, he laughed. I'll make it happen. Saeli received her commission in a small ceremony. She stood at attention in her new uniform, looking uncomfortable but proud. I do not know human military traditions well, she admitted afterward, holding her rank insignia. Is this normal? Giving an outsider such status? Nothing about us is normal, Cole said. We stopped being normal the day you showed up in chains, and I decided I wasn't going to let that stand. You could have walked away. That first day. You could have refused the gift and let me die. It would have been easier. Easier isn't the same as right. Saeli looked at the insignia again. Then she looked at him. I was trained from childhood to believe my value came from my usefulness to my bondholder. That my life had worth only in service. For 4 years with the Velorians, that belief was reinforced daily. Her voice was steady, but her eyes glistened. In 3 months with you, I have learned that I was lied to. That I have value beyond service. That I can be a person. She pinned the insignia to her collar. I will earn this, she said. Not because you demand it. Because I want to prove to myself that I can be more than what they made me. Cole felt something he'd almost forgotten how to feel. Pride. Not for himself, but for her. You already are, he said. That night, for the first time, he didn't hear her crying through the wall. He heard her singing instead. A soft alien melody that rose and fell like water over stones. Cole lay in the darkness and listened, and felt something in his chest crack open. The hard shell he built after Kira. After watching everyone he cared about die. After deciding it was safer not to care at all. It hurt. Healing always did. But for the first time in years, he thought maybe the pain was worth it. The Kytha came to Nexus Station with everything they had. Cole had known retaliation was coming. The intelligence they'd gathered on Delos 7 had cost the Kytha their invasion plans, their staging base, and their element of surprise. Someone was going to pay for that. He just hadn't expected it to be so soon. Or so overwhelming. All personnel to battle stations. This is not a drill. The station shook as the first wave of missiles hit. Cole ran through corridors filled with smoke and screaming, Saeli at his side. We need to reach the command center, she said, her enhanced senses cutting through the chaos. The main communication array is offline. They're trying to isolate us. Can we bring it back? The auxiliary systems are intact, but the fire suppression in that sector has failed. The pathway is blocked by... She stopped. By fire. They looked at each other. I know another route, Saeli said quietly. Through the maintenance shafts. It is narrow. You will not fit. Then you're not going. Cole. She used his name, something she'd only recently started doing. The communication array is essential. Without it, no reinforcements, no coordination. This station will fall, and everyone on it will die, including you. The station shuddered again. Somewhere nearby, metal screamed. I can do this, she said. Because you taught me I could. Because you believed in me before I believed in myself. Let me prove it. Everything in Cole's being screamed against it. The thought of her going into danger alone, into fire. The very thing that still haunted both their dreams, was unbearable. But she was right. She was the only one who could do this. You come back, he said, gripping her shoulders. That's an order. Saeli smiled. That real smile he'd grown to treasure. I intend to, she said. I have too much to come back to now. She was gone before he could say anything else. Cole fought his way to the command center. The Kytha had boarded the station, shock troops flooding through breached hull sections. He lost track of how many he killed. It didn't matter. What mattered was buying time. General Harwick was dead. Captain Vasquez was in critical condition. Cole found himself the ranking officer on what was left of the command deck. Communications are down, a terrified ensign reported. We can't reach the fleet. We can't. The screens flickered. Then, impossibly, they came alive. This is Nexus Station Auxiliary Array. Fleet Command, do you copy? We are under heavy assault. Requesting immediate reinforcement. Coordinates following. Saeli's voice. She'd made it. The fleet arrived 23 minutes later. 23 minutes during which Cole and the survivors held the command center against wave after wave of Kytha assault. When the first human fighters screamed past the viewports, Cole allowed himself one breath of relief. Then the station lurched, and his relief turned to ice. The sector where Saeli had gone, the auxiliary array, was venting atmosphere. Hull breach in Section 47, someone reported. Catastrophic decompression. No life signs detected. No. Cole ran. Yoy. He found her in the debris of the collapsed maintenance shaft. The fire suppression system had finally kicked in, filling the corridor with foam that was rapidly freezing in the vacuum. She wasn't moving. Cole didn't care about the vacuum or the cold or the way his lungs burned without his helmet fully sealed. He dug through the wreckage with his bare hands until he found her. Her eyes were closed. Her skin was blue. The luminescent markings on her arms had gone dark. No, he said. No, no, no. You don't get to do this. You promised. You said you'd come back. He pulled her free of the debris, wrapped his body around hers to shield her from the cold, and started moving toward the emergency airlock. Please, he whispered against her frozen hair. Please, don't leave me. I just found you. I can't do this alone again. The airlock cycled. Atmosphere returned. Medical teams were waiting. Cole refused to let go of her until they made him. He sat beside her bed for 3 days. The doctors weren't optimistic. Kytha biology was poorly understood. Hypothermia, oxygen deprivation, physical trauma. Anyone could be fatal. All 3 together. She's fighting, one doctor admitted. Her vitals keep stabilizing when they should be declining. It's like something's anchoring her here. Cole held her cold hand and didn't let go. On the 3rd night, her fingers twitched. Her eyes opened. Cole? Cole? Her voice was barely a whisper. I'm here. His own voice broke. I'm here. You're safe. Saeli looked at him, looked at the lines on his face, the exhaustion in his eyes, the way he held her hand like a lifeline. You waited, she said. Of course I waited. Where else would I be? Her silver eyes filled with tears. No one has ever waited. Not for me. When my family died, no one came. When the Velorians took me, no one looked for me. But you, I will always wait, Cole said fiercely. I will always come for you. Do you understand? That's what we do for the people we love. The word hung in the air between them. Love. Cole hadn't planned to say it. Hadn't even fully admitted it to himself. But now that it was out, he knew it was true. Saeli reached up with trembling fingers and touched the scar on her back, the one shaped like his hand. You pulled me from the fire, she said. Both times. The first time you saved my body. This time, you saved my soul. She pulled him down to her, and he rested his forehead against hers. I do not fully understand human love, she admitted, but I know what I feel. I know that when I thought I was dying, my only regret was leaving you. I know that my bond to you is not servitude or obligation. It is choice. It is wanting to stand beside you forever. She paused. Is that love? Cole laughed. A broken, relieved, exhausted laugh. Yeah, he said. I think that's exactly what it is. The aftermath of the Battle of Nexus Station changed everything. The Kreth's offensive had been shattered. Peace talks began within months. And somewhere in the rebuilding, a new precedent was set. Kytha were no longer classified as companion species, but as full citizens of the Alliance, with rights and protections equal to any human. Saeli was instrumental in that change. Her testimony before the Alliance Council, her service record, her survival, all of it proved that the Kytha were people, not property. Cole stood at the back of the chamber when the resolution passed. He watched Saeli accept the thanks of the council, saw the way she carried herself now, tall and proud and unbroken. Later, on the observation deck, she found him. You did it, he said. We did it. She stood beside him, looking out at the stars. None of this would have happened without you. You saw me as a person when no one else did. You believed in me when I had forgotten how to believe in myself. You did the hard work. Saeli smiled. Perhaps. But you gave me a reason to try. She turned to face him. In my culture, when a bond is true, we mark it. Not with servitude, but with promise. The commitment to face whatever comes, together. She took his hand, both hands, and held them. I want to make that promise, she said. Not because you saved me. Not because I owe you. But because I choose you. Because of who you are. Because the scar on my back shaped like your hand is the most precious thing I own. Because it reminds me every day that I am worth saving. Cole felt the old wounds. Kira, his squad, 14 years of war, slowly begin to heal. Not disappear, but transform into something he could carry. I'd choose you too, he said. Every day. For as long as you'll have me. Saeli leaned into him, and he wrapped his arms around her, carefully, gently, mindful of her still healing injuries. I pulled you from the fire, he murmured against her hair. But you pulled me from the darkness. I think that makes us even. She laughed softly. Then we are partners. True partners. Outside the observation window, the stars burned cold and distant. But inside, for the first time in longer than either of them could remember, both Cole and Saeli were warm. They stood together, watching the universe spin on, and knew that whatever came next, they would face it as one. Not owner and companion. Not savior and saved. Just two souls who had found each other in the chaos of war and chosen, against all odds, to build something worth fighting for. Something that looked a lot like home.